Hey guys, Tarke here, and today I'm going to talk you through my league start plans for Delirium League. This is a fairly generic Chaos Trickster. I've got both a hybrid and a CI version. This would be perfect for anyone who wants to play Caustic Arrow, Toxic Rain, Essence Drain, Bane, or Soulrend. I'm not entirely sure if I want to go Caustic Arrow or Essence Drain yet, so I'm going to be leveling as Caustic Arrow and using both until I pick which one I prefer. I league started with Caustic Arrow last league and got into red maps with just a 4-link +1 bow, and it was absolutely fine. Can highly recommend. I've also collected a bunch of guides I can highly recommend from people who you may not have seen all of their content from. We have a Soulrend specifically build from Engineering Eternity. Has did a lot of Toxic Rain hybrid setups, and he also experimented with SSF and Hardcore. Really solid. BRITTLEKNEE has an excellent Caustic Arrow CI Trickster video and written forum guide. I always call him Thin or TN, but he's a great guy, and he's got a very solid Bane Occultist setup. You can just swap a few points and go from Occultist to Trickster, and then Balor's Essence Drain Contagion written guide. So you've got 2 written guides and 3 visuals. So use mine as a base, and whichever one you decide you like the most of, pick from here. And if you prefer written, use written. If you prefer visual, you can use a visual. So, why am I picking this build? What is it good for? What is it bad for? The main reason why I'm going for this build is it has incredibly high defense, and I'm actually going to be playing hardcore in a private league, so I won't have many items to trade with, so I'm basically playing like soft SSF. And Delirium is all around momentum and being able to stay on the move. I'm personally not going to be using much Blight, and that's also why I'm going for like Caustic Arrow rather than Toxic Rain, that you can go Toxic Rain, because I feel like Toxic Rain might lock you down a little bit too much. I feel like you want to be constantly dodging around, moving, and just going through super quick. So why is that good with why is that good with Trickster rather than going for Occultist, or rather than going for one of the range options? If you're going for Caustic Arrow, Raider is a very solid defensive option, but the leveling is going to be a bit rough. Also, from conversations we've had with the developers on Bayclast, specifically about how Delirium scales, Delirium mostly scales the defense of enemies. Raider does less damage than Trickster. You want to get as much damage as possible. This is also why I plan on using both Caustic Arrow and Essence Drain in conjunction with one another. The other very good synergy about this is because I'll be playing a hybrid build, I'll be sustaining my energy shield through Ghost Shrouds. So the way that Ghost Shrouds work, a bunch of my flat evasion is converted to ES. So as you can see, it's a 6k life, 2.6k ES build. And then when I get hit, I lose a Ghost Shroud, and I recover energy shield equal to 4% of my evasion rating. And I've got like 30k evasion rating, so I gain a bunch of ES whenever I get hit. So that's why I'm going for that setup. So it's got more damage, and it's got better sustain. Even if I end up going pure Caustic Arrow, I will still keep a 5-link Essence Drain in my chest piece for just additional single target. And Essence Drain gives you a bunch of increased recovery, because you get life recovery based on damage dealt. So I have good life recovery and good ES recovery, so it's all pretty well balanced. I've planned out the tree for level 84. The reason why I've done that is because, again, this is my base start version. I will be transitioning eventually into CI. But it also means that you've got a few flexible points you can put on the tree, and if you get a Cluster Jewel, and we've seen some very good Cluster Jewel options, there's lots of very good Chaos-specific Cluster Jewels, which you'll definitely want on these builds. And we have access to a Jewel here, and an access to a Jewel here. If you would like to go Acro Phase Acro, you can. You would still have 1.8k ES, but I want to go more hybrid-y. If you went for this Cluster Jewel, you could go for Acro Phase Acro, and if you went for this Cluster Jewel, you'd probably go for the Pierce Cluster here. So, yeah. Going through the skill options in the gear options. So, the other good thing, the other very good thing about going for bows for this kind of a setup, and I would do the same thing for Essence Drain, you can use the Porcupine card or the Imperial Legacy card and get a 6-link at the very start of the league, which is very helpful. And it does more damage than going for just like a one-handed shield, which is what a lot of people do with Essence Drain. And again, you need to be scaling your damage as high as possible. Caustic Arrow, Vicious Projectiles, damage on full life. Some people run Concentrated Effect instead of damage on full life. Damage on full life feels much better for me personally. If you don't like it, you can go for Conc Effect. The reason why I feel comfortable using it is I have good high life sustain, and I also have my ES protecting my life pool. Swift Affliction, Void Manipulation, and then until you get an Empower, you can run something like Slower Proj. You can also use Pierce. The Essence Drain on a 5-link early on, I would use Essence Drain, Efficacy, Controlled Destruction, Swift Affliction, Void Manipulation. You can use Energy Shield Leech, that's very strong, but it's a bit of a wonky support, which is why I don't recommend it. For the hybrid version, I'd recommend just Malevolence and Flesh and Stone as your 2 auras. With Investment, once you have Enlightens, you could run Enlighten level 3, take these 4 points, and also add a Discipline to the build and run 3 auras. One thing I do that a lot of people don't do is I run Withering Step instead of Wither Totems. Wither Totems, I think, is just a PvP warrior thing. So the reason why Wither is strong is when you apply Wither to an enemy, they take increased chaos damage. Wither stacks caps out at 15. So whenever anyone's like looking at their damage, they always go into the configuration and they stack the Wither stacks to 15. The problem with using Wither Totems is you need a 4-link. So you need like Wither, Spell Totem, Multi-Totem. They need a faster caster, increased duration. Your totems regularly die. Also, you have to place your totems, which takes time, and place your totems can get you killed. Whereas what you can do is you can run Withering Step, increased duration, linked with either your cast and damage taken or a Vial skill. And a level 21 Withering Step instantly applies 7 Withers. So your DPS rotation for single target would be Caustic Arrow, Essence Drain, Withering Step, Refreshed Caustic Arrow, Refresh Essence Drain, Withering Step. Also, while in Withering Step, you gain a bunch of dodge and spell dodge, and you gain some speed boost, which degenerates with time. So with 2 Withering Steps back to back, you apply 14 sacks of Wither, and you can keep that up 100% of the time, which is great. The other thing which is very solid about it is with increased duration linked to it, the Wither lasts for 6.3 seconds, which is a very long time, because you get a whole bunch of skill back duration from being a Trickster. You can also take these 3 points, which is very strong, especially if you end up going for either Toxic Rain or Soulrend in your setup. People really do sleep on skill effect duration, and also most of the good Chaos Cluster Jaw mods we see add a bunch of skill effect duration, so there's very good synergy there. If you want to, you could use a Wither Spell Totem, because Spell Totems do have slightly more life in this patch, but I still think they'll be a bit squishy, but you could run that instead if you'd like to. One thing I've been kind of thinking about is going for like a full Essence Drain Contagion setup and then just having the Caustic Arrow for extra single target. But yeah, if I end up going pure Caustic Arrow, I would drop the Contagion. The reason why doing both is kind of nice is it means that you can Caustic Arrow for most of the time, and then Essence Drain Contagion just so when you get like a really nice stack, so for example like a Legion pack or something. You can also have a second bow in the weapon swap with Arrow Nova. Arrow Nova plus Caustic Arrow gives you insane map clear. The issue with it, however, is it hurts your damage, so when you've got bad gear early on, you can't get away with it. And then you want to be picking one or more of all of these Vial skills. Vial Blight for additional damage, Vial Molten Shell for insane tankiness. I was very surprised Vial Molten Shell didn't get nerfed. Vial Grace for mitigation, Vial Discipline for ES sustain. For the items, again, you want to go for a 6-link from either the Porcupine or the Imperial Legacy div card bow. Use a Essence of Dread, sorry. Gives you guaranteed +2 of socketed level of bow gems. And then you just craft Chaos Multi. And that's your starter bow finished. You're ideally going to want a Pierce Quiver. Damage over time multiplier, you can just ult spam for. And you're just looking for damage over time multiplier and max life. And then a very good crafted mod is +2 evasion, +2 energy shield that can be crafted on both quivers and belts. Very strong for Trickster. For your helmet, you would want a minus Chaos Rust helmet. These used to be crafted by fossils. This is now crafted by Hunter Influence gear. So you'd just be looking for any ES base Hunter helm early on, and you just throw a couple of ults into it until you get the minus Chaos Res. Ideally, you get like a good life mod, a good ES mod. The more ES you can get on your helm, the more evasion you'll get because of Trickster, but whatever. Restless Sword is an amazing like early item, very strong. Ideally, you eventually want a good crafted chest piece, or use something like a Hiri's Aya or a Perfect Form or a Kintsugi. But Restless Sword's like a day one, like couple of chaos item, which very quickly goes down to like 1 alch. And it gives you a whole bunch of evasion, which gets added as energy shield, a whole bunch of energy shield, which obviously scales your energy shield, a good life roll, and then it also gives you a bunch of quality of life to your Frenzy, Endurance, and Power Charge duration, increased life regeneration, power and charge, increased movement speed per Frenzy charge. The reason why that's relevant is a lot of the new Cluster Jewel mods we've seen are very powerful with War Cries, so you could very easily fit Enduring Cry into this build for a bunch more life sustain. One thing that's also worth noting on that point, if you were to use the new Second Wind support gem that adds another charge to your Flame Dash or your Dash ability, you could do like Flame Dash, Second Wind, a War Cry ability to get 2 charges in a War Cry, so you can double War Cry for some of the cool buffs you get from the Cluster Jewels. For your gloves, you just want as much life and ES as you can get. Early boots at 0 step is great, but otherwise you just want good movement speed, good life. If you can get some ES, great. For your Ami early on, it's just as much life and ES as possible. You'd eventually want a good Hunter Ami, but I haven't factored this in because this is the very budget setup. And then as much life and ES as you can get on rings, and as much life and ES as you can get on your belt as well, with the crafted... I don't know, for some reason it's put the mod there twice on the belt. Oh, let's just remove that, sorry. With the crafted ES and evasion mod that comes together. For your jewels, just life and any damage mod. Chaos damage over time multiplier or just damage over time multiplier is very close, whichever one. And yeah, so that is the hybrid version. I'll now just talk you through the CI version. The CI version is definitely what you want to eventually be transitioning into. The reason why I say it's definitely what you want to be eventually transitioning into is at just level 85, you get access to a Cluster Jewel, and you can use a Thread of Hope here to get Phase Acro, Silent Steps, which is 5% damage reduction against blinded enemies who use Flesh and Stone in this setup, Hunter's Gambit for Chaos Damage over time multiplier and skill effect duration. This also applies to Essence Rain if you're just an Essence Rain build. If you're playing Caustic Arrow, spend 4 points here for the Pierce. If you're not, drop those points. But again, the trees are basically identical, which is why they're so flexible for everything. You get a whole bunch of ES scaling. You get only level 85, 223% increased energy shield. It's very solid. And you get Wicked Ward, which Wicked Ward in combination with Escape Artist and Soul Strike gives you very silly ES recovery. Links, basically the same setup, although at this point you would be going for an Empower with a plus level, +3 bow. If you don't have a Curse on hit to spare somewhere on gear, I would use Bane in chest piece instead of Essence Drain in chest piece. The reason being is the reason why I like Essence Drain in conjunction with Caustic Arrow for the hybrid versions for the life recovery, but because I'm trying to keep the points low for Cluster Jewels, I don't route over to Zealot's Oath, so Essence Drain is just worth less there. Malevolence, Flesh and Stone, Vile Discipline linked with a level 3 Enlighten. With Charisma, leaves you with 9% mana unreserved, which is fine because you're not actively pressing buttons very often. If you're doing it for Caustic Arrow, you just Caustic Arrow once every couple of packs. There's Essence Drain Contagion, just Essence Drain Contagion, clear the entire screen. Again, the Withering Step increased duration setup, and then movement skill plus Vol skills of choice. And then the gear is the same concept as before, it's just slightly more min-maxed up. Now, one of the people who I will leave a link to down below is OAKIES. OAKIES played CI Caustic Arrow Trickster level 97 in Hardcore Metamorph League, and he did some pretty interesting things, and his gear is basically like the perfect version of gear you want, so I'm leaving a link to it down below. The main thing that he does, which was pretty cool, is he used 4 Vol skills. He used Vol Molten Shell with increased duration, Vol Grace, Vol Blight, and he also had a Vol Discipline. The reason why he uses 4 Vol skills, so Vol Blight you just use purely for single target to boost your damage. By using both Vol Molten Shell and Vol Grace, you basically become unkillable for about 30 seconds. Now the reason being is Vol Molten Shell will last for like 17-ish seconds with all the skill effect duration you have. And this gives you a massive absorb shield of like 15k. So you already have like 8 to 10k energy shield based on how good your gear is. Then you gain a massive absorb shield on top of that. When your Vol Molten Shell eventually runs out, you then press Vol Grace, and then you have like capped out dodge, spell dodge, or close to, for the next 17 seconds. So by spacing them out like that, you just become pretty much unkillable. Or you just press both at the same time, and you definitely won't die to scary Legion encounters or scary bosses, etc. Then your Vol Discipline is an emergency button when you need to recover your ES. The main thing that you can also do, which makes it very interesting in how you're able to scale your Vol Molten Shell, is by using the Avoid Ailment Crafted mod. You can craft this on both Helm and Gloves, 25%, which gives you 50% chance to avoid elemental ailments. If you have a 100% chance to avoid elemental ailments, you are immune to all elemental ailments, meaning you don't need to craft freeze, ignite, or shock on your flasks. The way you get the remaining 50% is you anoint crystal skin. Crystal skin is this node here, which gives you 15% chance to avoid ailments and also 5% reduced elemental damage taken. This is the equivalent of, like, you know, 1.5 max res. Pretty powerful. And then the remaining 35% you can get in a few places. On Shaper boots, you can get 35% chance to avoid elemental ailments. And also, we've seen a bunch of cluster jewels which have chance to avoid elemental ailments. There is a dodge and spell dodge one, which gives 3%, and there's a block and spell block one, which gives 3%. Also, the block spell block one doesn't specify with shields. So yeah, it's very, very powerful. I will leave links to everything down below. If you want gameplay stuff, you can look at any of these videos for gameplay of the builds in action. And since this is my league starter, I will be making step-by-step videos as I progress through, recommending how I would go about certain things. Finally, for anyone who's like, but how do I level this build? Like, how do I go about it? Just to show you the path I would take for leveling. And again, you would use the hybrid tree for leveling. Going to be rooting through the early damage. I would then take Blood Siphon up to Trickery for more damage. I'd come across to Entropy for damage, into Fangs the Viper for damage. I get some life, get some damage. I'd then come up for some more damage, get some life, get some damage. At this point, I would then come down this way. So you would have routed directly across this way. I'd grab Blood Drinker. I would then route this way. The reason why I route this way, this might look slightly weird to you, is this is the same amount of points, right? Doing that, and that is the same amount of points. But by doing it this way, I gain 10 strength. Over 10% damage over time multiplier. Early on, you're going to need strength. So that's why I go through the strength. If you don't need the strength, do it that way. Same amount of points, it's kind of whatever. You'd then come down, you'd grab this cluster if you're using Caustic Arrow. If you're not using Caustic Arrow, you'd skip it. Come across, get some life. Then you get some damage. At this point, you've got one of two options based on what you'd rather. If you just want to go full tank, you'd then skirt along this way, grabbing the life, grabbing some resist, grabbing some strength, and you grab the whole Sarn cluster. And then you would come across into Witch, and you'd grab the life ES cluster, more life, some AoE, some more life. The other advantage of going down this way is by the time you're coming around this way, you'd have gotten your Merc Lab. And your Ascendancy order for this build is you take Patient Reaper first, it gives you some damage, and it gives you sustain for your life, ES, and your mana, which is very strong. You then take Ghost Dance from your Crawl Lab. This gives you some movement speed, which means you'll level faster. It also gives you some reduced damage taken from Ghost Shrouds. The ES recovery won't really matter much at this point because you won't have much ES. But by the time you then do your Merc Lab, you then take Escape Arthas, which gives you some spell dodge, give you some attack and cast speed, which make your build feel better. You get the partial stun immunity, and at this point you should have a decent-ish evasion chest piece, so you'll start to have some good ES there. And you then come across this way, getting more ES. If you're playing Essence Drain and you don't like the Caustic Arrow at all, you would drop those 2 points, and obviously you drop those points. Also, from the patch notes, Arcane Expanse, which is a very good spell damage and AoE cluster, looks like it will be moving here. You would definitely take these 3 points. 100% you would take these 3 points for Essence Drain Contagion, because the spell damage scales your Essence Drain, and you do actually want some area scaling on Contagion for Contagion to feel really good. Again, you can just level as Bane all the way into maps if you don't want to be messing around with Contagion and Essence Drain combos, or if you don't like Caustic Arrow. But yes, I will leave links to everything down below. If you have any questions, let me know. And yeah, it's a very flexible tree. I find both of them to be quite low level because cluster jewels are very strong. And make sure that you do check out these amazing people's guides that I will leave. Have a good day. Bye-bye.